Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Drupal for Gov webinar series. We've got a few folks that are still starting to join us, but I want to go ahead and get started and be respectful of people's time. So Drupal for Gov hosts a monthly webinar series, and the shutdown kind of put us off track a little bit, but we are back and restarting our monthly series. We have today's session. We also have something scheduled for March. April is still being determined, and we're actively seeking topics and presenters for the remaining part of the calendar year. So if there is something specific you would like to see covered or something that you would like to present on, please reach out to us. You can hit us up on Twitter at GovDrupal, or you can reach out to me directly through the Drupal4gov@gmail.com address. That's Drupal4gov@gmail.com. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to talk a little bit about who Drupal for Gov is. And so Kelly, if you could just switch to the next slide for me, please. So Drupal for Gov, who are we? Well, we are an organization that is committed to providing access to government employees and making information about open source more readily available. So we encompass a lot of different open source projects within our community, but we have our beginnings and the majority of our work is done in the Drupal project. And so members of Drupal for Gov can have experience with any open source project from licenses to development. And we have all sorts of folks involved in all different aspects of any type of project work you can think of. But most importantly, we are a community who is dedicated to supporting government employees, both local government, state, city, federal, and even international. Next slide, please. So most of you know us for our major event, which we host every summer at the NIH Library in Bethesda. The campus there is really, really nice, and we are able to host a 3-day conference every summer. This year, we will be back at NIH. The admissions are completely free. The dates are July 24th through the 26th. And July 23rd, which is the Tuesday prior, we hope to be able to offer full and half-day training in addition to the remaining sessions being held Wednesday through Friday. So you can, we don't have registration open just yet. We hope to have that in the coming weeks. We'll be able to announce that we will open both for registration as well as session submission. So if you've been to one of our events or you're considering coming to one of our events or have something you'd like to present at one of our events, just start thinking about that and be looking for notifications as we open up both registration and session submission. Next slide, please. So in addition to Drupal GovCon, which is the major event that we offer, Drupal for Gov also participates at DrupalCon North America by sponsoring and organizing Gov Summit. So the government summit started, I want to say 3 years ago, and we are rolling into our 4th year. This year in Seattle, our Gov Summit will be on Monday. The new DrupalCon schedule has summits both Monday and Tuesday, but Gov Summit will be held on Monday. And so we encourage you to go online to the DrupalCon website and take a look at our summit description. We've got some exciting things that we'll be talking about there, and we hope folks will be able to join us for that one-day event if they're able to make it out to DrupalCon. We also participate in the Drupal Global Training Days. We don't have one scheduled as of yet, but the dates have been posted by the Drupal Association, and we do try to participate in those as much as possible. And again, if you want to connect with us, our Twitter account of GovDrupal, or for the main event, Drupal GovCon, follow us there. We always use social media to advertise all of our different events or key dates associated with an event, but we also have an email mailing distribution list that if you go to the Drupal GovCon website, you can join as well. And so there's lots of different ways to connect with us. But hopefully you are following us at least on Twitter, and we'll get those notifications as we move between our different events. Okay, next slide. All right, so let me just introduce you to our speaker here. So Kelly is joining us. Excuse
Hello.
me. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry. I was just having some technical difficulties for a second there. Specifically, I was pulling up your little bio, and my computer was not responding. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
But here, okay, so sorry. Forgive me, folks. I just wanted to introduce Kelly to you. He works as an Agile and DevOps coach and as a regular consultant for large companies, NGOs, and government organizations. He's also very active in a community capacity, both in code and other capacity. He is a lead organizer of NERD, which is the New England Regional Development Summit. I believe I said that right, which is a New England-based nonprofit. So there's lots of other things that Kelly is super involved in, and so we are really appreciative of his expertise and his ability to come and share with us. And so I'm going to turn this over to Kelly to do his presentation. He has suggested that if you have questions, you can. We're a small enough group where you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask the question. Or if you don't feel comfortable doing that, please feel free to use the chat box, and he'll take a look at the chat box towards the end, and we'll go through some of those Q&As. We are recording this, so we will post webinar. You will get an email notification from Eventbrite that will contain the link to this recording, as well as recordings of previous webinars that you can feel free to refer back to or share with any of your coworkers who may not have been able to make it. So Kelly, it's all yours.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here speaking on this topic. I'll also be at DrupalCon in Seattle on this same topic, an updated version, I'm sure, and a follow-up BOF for that. This talk is going to mostly focus on the why and some of the how, and we can infer some of the what from that. But in DrupalCon Seattle, there will be a follow-up BOF, which will be focused on a lot of the how. Rob Bayless will be joining me for that one, so that one should be pretty good. So yes, I'm Kelly Albrecht, and coming in here from Last Call Media. I write a lot of posts on these types of topics at Last Call, so be sure to check things out over there and find some more stuff. All right. Oh yeah. We're doing a Drupal community DevOps survey right now, and you can get to more information at this URL. And actually, I think I have, you can find it on our website. There's this area on the site. You can also head over to the blog to find the post about the survey to get to different parts of it there, and you can participate in that. And we're going to touch on that toward the end of today's presentation. So the short link to write directly to the survey is lcm.io 2019 Drupal DevOps, all one word, all lowercase. Okay, so why DevOps? Why do we want to do it? How do we know about it? What do we know about it? Many people today find themselves learning about DevOps by first seeing one of its outcomes and learning about how that outcome came to be. Learning why something is considered to be a part of DevOps is not necessary to learning how to implement the pieces of it. However, knowing why something would be considered a part of DevOps, or even knowing why a DevOps strategy is important, can mean the difference between following and leading in an industry. And this is a tricky piece for groups right now. They know they want to do DevOps. They know they want to get started. They know some things that are like DevOps. But when they try to drive an organizational change, especially if they're part of a larger organization, there can be a lot of confusion. Most of these organizations are already trying to do some form of Agile or how they understand Agile. And so one really common thing that I see people trying to figure out and asking questions about boil down to trying to understand the relation between Agile and DevOps, because a lot of organizations right now understand themselves as already trying to be Agile. And now there's this DevOps thing, and it's sort of like, these are some of the options, right? Is DevOps a subset of Agile, or is Agile a subset of DevOps, or does DevOps extend Agile, or does DevOps replace Agile? There are a lot of questions about this, and there are far, far, far more answers. I see this on LinkedIn all the time, people asking questions about this, and industry professionals providing a wide variety answers. So it's very hard to really lead a DevOps transformation in your organization if you don't understand the underlying why or what of the thing that you're trying to implement. There's one very important missing piece of the puzzle that's missing here in what people are trying to understand about DevOps, and that piece is lean. So DevOps makes a lot more sense if we start with the strategies of Henry Ford and then the further refinements and improvements in the Toyota production system. This is really the history. This history is really the birthplace of lean manufacturing, and lean is really all about seeking to continuously remove waste and increase the flow of value to the customer. So making the product flow continuously is understood as lean principle number 3. There are 5 in the book Lean Thinking. There are numbers and numbers and numbers of books about lean, and it's a tremendously valuable aspect to understanding how to get things done faster without waste and providing more value. Lean shows us that single piece flow is a much better way. So lean seeks to continuously remove waste and increase the flow of value to the customer. This is easily recognizable and understood through a core tenet of lean, and that is single piece flow. There are a number of simulations or exercises or activities that we can do to experience why moving single pieces at a time flows magnitudes faster than batches of many pieces. In the penny game, which is a lean simulation, in the penny game, for example, if a batch of 20 pennies takes 2 minutes to get to the customer, then the customer gets the whole batch after waiting 2 minutes. But if you instead do single piece flow, which is essentially 1 penny at a time, the customer gets the first penny in 5 seconds and continues getting pennies until the 20th penny arrives approximately 25 seconds later. This is a huge difference. But not everything in life is as simple and predictable as the penny in the penny game. And this is exactly where Agile comes in. For example, Agile frameworks like Scrum increase awareness with ceremonies like the daily stand-up and the sprint review. If a Scrum team becomes aware of a new reality, it is allowed and encouraged by the framework to adjust course if necessary. For teams to be able to make these types of decisions, they need to be self-organizing in a high-trust environment. High-performing Agile teams working this way achieve a fast flow of value while continuously adjusting course, removing the waste of going in the wrong direction. So we see a lot of the lean principles in high-performing Agile teams, but lean alone isn't enough to accomplish what software development teams needed to accomplish with the broad variance in the tasks that are typical in that profession. Moving on, to understand the power of DevOps in software development, it helps to first understand the economics of batch size. Here's an illustration about batch size and optimal batch size. This illustration can be explained with an analogy about grocery shopping. Suppose you need to buy some eggs and you live 30 minutes from the store. Buying 1 egg, which would be to the far left of the illustration, 1 egg at a time would mean a 30-minute trip each time. A 30-minute trip would be considered your transaction cost on this illustration. The holding cost represents the egg spoiling and taking up space in your fridge over time. The total cost is the transaction cost plus the holding cost. The U-curve, this U-curve explains why for most people buying a dozen eggs at a time is their optimal batch size, because they can get more eggs in a single trip. If they instead lived next door to the store, it'd cost next to nothing, which would reduce their transaction cost. It would cost next to nothing to just walk there, and they'd buy a smaller carton each time to save room in their fridge and enjoy fresher eggs. And we can see what happens when you lower transaction cost in this illustration here. So they live closer to the store, and actually their transaction cost is lowered, and that moves optimal batch size over to the left. So instead of a dozen eggs, they can buy maybe that smaller 6-pack. This is applicable when thinking about why, in trying to explain why Agile is so effective in organizations that are experiencing a successful Agile transformation. This is because the Agile frameworks reduce the transaction cost in terms of decision making and allow for an optimal batch size of smaller, more frequent decisions. In a more traditional organization, larger decisions are made by fewer people less frequently. But if you bring Agile into the mix and you implement high trust self-organizing teams, the decisions get distributed, decentralized across those teams to where the awareness and the information is best. And a organization that has accomplished a successful Agile transformation makes far more decisions faster and more frequently. This cannot be understated. So where does DevOps fit into this? With DevOps, consider the automation that DevOps is known for. Most people know a DevOps for automation and continuous integration and continuous delivery. All of these types of automation essentially reduce the transaction cost of deployment, of testing and deployment down to zero. And what this does is this reduces the optimal batch size of tasks closer and closer to single piece flow. So if you start with Agile and you get your decisions and your process and the size of the work task that you're doing optimized for smaller and smaller single piece items, you increase your flow, and DevOps takes it even further by reducing the transaction cost down even lower, and what we get is the potential for what we've seen in large organizations, thousands of decisions and deployments happening every single day. More traditionally, DevOps has been understood to be very much about knocking down the walls of confusion between the dev and ops teams. The friction occurs because new features from development introduce change into the system, increasing the risk of an outage, which the operations team doesn't feel responsible for, but has to deal with anyway. Here, DevOps is not just trying to get people working together, but is really about trying to make more frequent changes safely in a complex environment. We can look to Ron Westrum for compelling research about how safety is achieved in complex organizations. Ron Westrum is an American sociologist who has studied safety in the aviation and health industry. In researching why some of these organizations are safer than others, he found that an organization's culture is predictive of the safety of that organization. He identified 3 types of culture, seen here, with the pathologic culture being predictive of less safety and the generative culture being predictive of more safety. And more safety meaning, for example, far fewer plane crashes or accidental hospital deaths. Effective DevOps teams achieve a generative culture with lean and agile practices, actually showing that speed and safety are complementary, 2 sides of the same coin. By reducing the optimal batch sizes of decisions and features to be very small, DevOps achieves a faster flow of information value while removing waste and reducing risk. In line with Westrum's research, change can happen easily with safety and reliability improving at the same time. DevOps doesn't stop there. We've mostly been talking about DevOps achieving a revolutionary flow, but lean and agile practices are further amplified through similar efforts, achieving faster feedback loops and faster learning. In the DevOps Handbook, Gene Kim, Jess Humble, and others explain in detail how beyond its fast flow, DevOps achieves telemetry across its entire value stream for fast and continuous feedback. And further, leveraging the Kaizen bursts of Lean and the retrospectives of Scrum, High-performing DevOps teams will continuously drive learning and continuous improvement deep into the foundations of their organizations, making it the lean manufacturing revolution of the software product development industry of today. So, how do we start? Either after much study or with the help of a consultant and a coach with DevOps expertise, an assessment can be conducted across a suite of dimensions which are consistently upheld by high-performing DevOps teams. Such an assessment should identify weak or non-existent team norms that need improvement. Once such an assessment is completed, it needs to be evaluated for quick wins. These areas of focus with these are areas of focus with high chances for success that will be high impact for the team to improve on. Quick wins are important for gaining the momentum needed for tackling the more challenging areas of focus. Ideas should be generated amongst the teams to be tried right away to start to move the needle on the DevOps transformation. And after some time, the team should reassess on the same dimensions to see improvements as well as the emergence of new high-impact focus areas, again with fresh ideas coming from the team. A good coach will consult, train, mentor, and support as needed until the team is owning its own continuous improvement, achieving near consistency on all dimensions by continually reassessing and experimenting and learning. As an example of this approach, we can check out the In Progress 2019 Drupal Community DevOps Survey. And the link here is again here. And let's see, we'll jump over to that. We'll just do it. We'll just do kind of a live thing here. We've got, okay. So if you do participate, if you do share your thoughts on how DevOps is working on your Drupal teams, at the end you'll get to the results. Going through it looks something like this, where each one, each statement is a dimension of DevOps with on which high-performing DevOps teams are consistent at. So you can evaluate if your Drupal team is consistent at this statement or not, and answer and proceed to the next one. Here's the next one to think if your team is consistent on it or not. Each statement, this is a tool you can use, measure.team, that we've built to do these assessments and help teams achieve high-performing DevOps states in their organization. But you can do something like this on paper or in Google Forms or in spreadsheets. You'll want to encourage each person on the team to add comments or ideas here. We'll see in the results that where these ideas get aggregated, because ultimately you want your teams to be trusted and to own their own improvement. And over time, you can progress toward a more consistent, high-performing DevOps state. We'll just jump back to the results. That's what the statements look like. So this overall score, this is where the overall Drupal community is right now. All of the responses to all of the statements are averaged together and rolled up to this one score. While the real value of this overall score is more for the team to track its own high-level improvement over time, this score right now could be superficially understood as the Drupal community is feeling like it is consistent with DevOps practices a little more than some of the time. To look through the results as a, in the context of the team wanting to improve, we'd want to look for some of those high impact, easy, quick wins to gain momentum on the transformation. So that doesn't mean that we go all the way down to the ones that we're the most consistent on. Like, it seems like everybody the entire Drupal community is pretty good on using version control. And we even have some comments from some members of the Drupal community sharing their ideas on how that's working for them. Quick win, just looking at it, might be the code base is in a deployable state throughout its life cycle. This is an important dimension of DevOps, and the Drupal community team essentially is doing pretty good at this, but this could be one that small, straightforward changes might bring us closer to 100%. One idea here is one that I added earlier, where implementing basic continuous integration for running your test suite, along with continuous delivery to a preview environment for visual review, will decouple your ongoing feature development from the production pipeline. This allows for more strategic deployments, hot fixes, or ready branches with new features, and things don't get bound up and prevent you from the production branch, or the main production pipeline stays free in a deployable state. And your team might have other ideas that work best for your team. Let's see, what's one of the next ones that might be good? Once you've made built some momentum with one of those quick wins, you might want to move up to a more challenging one. Security considerations are integrated into the design and testing phases. This one starts with a mindset shift, and you can start working differently to try to get more consistent at this one. And then you could, once you've started on something like this, you could work to improve by adding this into any automated testing that you might be working on. The number one top area needing the most focus is the majority of primary business value has test coverage, and these tests are run whenever code is committed. This is a top area of focus for the Drupal community and would be one that would be well suited for ideas and collaboration across the community. One of the things that Last Call has developed is Drupal test traits, which will help improve this. So it'd be good to check that out as well. And if you do participate in this survey, you'll be able to see these very same results and participate in the ideas as well. The real goal of all of this is to work on improving the flow of your DevOps team and providing fast feedback into how it's going and how it could be improved through these assessments and the reassessments, and continue to learn and improve and continue to get more consistent at these DevOps dimensions to achieve that single piece flow and high performance that DevOps and those outcomes that DevOps is known for. Let me bounce back over to here. These slides can be made available for sure. So in conclusion, having an understanding of the context and history of DevOps will mean the difference between following and leading in an industry. We discussed throughout the first part of this presentation and then dove deeper into the underlying concepts driving the radical success high-performing DevOps teams are able to achieve. We then discussed starting by way of continuous improvement through assessment and reassessment. We ended with a case study of an ongoing self-assessment and self-evaluation of DevOps in the Drupal community, showing examples of how teams might approach the results to drive their own continuous improvement along their DevOps transformation. So go ahead, participate in that assessment, and be sure to check out our presentation either in person or the recording at DrupalCon Seattle, and also hope to see you at the follow-up BOF. That's going to do it for me. Thank you very much, and if there are any questions, I'll be happy to check those out.
Thanks, Kelly. Folks, if you have any questions, go ahead and unmute yourself and feel free to just go ahead and ask. Okay, well, if there are no questions, then thank you all for your participation. Kelly, thank you so much for sharing with us today. Folks, if you registered via Eventbrite, you'll receive a follow-on email which will contain a link not only to the recording of this webinar, but for the webinars also that Drupal for God has hosted in the past. Feel free to share that information with others who may have missed this. And yeah, I guess that's about it. Thanks, folks. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.